Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment.
Hi, Reddit. I'm a longtime lurker and first-time poster. This situation has been weighing on me for a while, and I'd really appreciate some outside perspective. For context, I'm a 43-year-old woman who has been happily married to my husband, Jake, 45 male, for 15 years. We are both child-free by choice. Jake and I decided early in our relationship that we didn't want kids. It wasn't an easy decision. We both love children, but we also knew the lifestyle we wanted didn't include parenthood. We've traveled the world together, built careers we're passionate about, and created a life that feels fulfilling. And while we've been questioned by family, friends, and strangers alike about our choice, we've always stood firm. We have no regrets. But while I don't have children of my own, there is one child in my life who I absolutely adore. My niece, Mia. She's the 10-year-old daughter of my brother, Mark, and his ex-wife, Sarah. Mia's been the light of my life since the day she was born. I've always been an involved aunt, attending her school events, hosting auntie weekends where we bake and craft together, and spoiling her with love and attention. To me, Mia isn't just my niece. She's like the daughter I never had, and I've cherished every moment of watching her grow up. About 3 years ago, I was in a devastating car accident. A distracted driver ran a red light and slammed into my car at full speed. I was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and spent weeks in intensive care. There were moments when even the doctors weren't sure I'd make it. The recovery process was grueling. Months of physical therapy, surgeries, and countless sleepless nights filled with pain and fear. But if there's one thing that experience taught me, it's that life is fragile. It forced me to reevaluate my priorities and think deeply about what kind of legacy I wanted to leave behind. During my recovery, I decided to set my affairs in order. Jake and I don't have children, and while we've both worked hard to build a comfortable life, we knew we wanted to use our resources to help the people we love. For me, that meant Mia. She's my goddaughter, and I want to make sure she's supported, no matter what. So I set up a will leaving everything to her, a decision Jake fully supported. We even worked with a financial planner to create a trust fund for her education and future needs. It felt like the right thing to do. Now, let's talk about my brother, Mark, 40 male. Mark was married to Sarah for 12 years. While their marriage wasn't perfect, they seemed happy enough. Sarah is a wonderful woman, kind, patient, and an incredible mother to Mia. I've always admired how gracefully she handled herself, even through tough times. That's why it was such a shock when, 2 years ago, Mark revealed he'd been having an affair with a colleague from work, Lily. Mark's announcement shattered our family. He left Sarah for Lily, claiming he'd finally found his soulmate. It was a mess. Mia was devastated, Sarah was heartbroken, and the rest of us were left trying to make sense of it all. To make matters worse, Lily came into the picture with 2 kids of her own from a previous relationship, a boy and a girl, both close in age to Mia. Suddenly, Mark was playing dad to these children while barely holding things together with his own daughter. I tried to stay neutral at first. I didn't condone Mark's actions, but I also didn't want to alienate him. My focus was on Mia and making sure she felt loved and supported. But Mark started pressuring me to embrace Lily's kids as part of the family. He'd make comments like, "You're such a great aunt to Mia. It would mean so much if you extended that to Lily's kids too." I remained polite but distant. These children were strangers to me, and frankly, the circumstances under which they entered our lives didn't endear them to me. Earlier this year, Mark and Lily got married. Shortly after, we found out Lily was pregnant, and the timeline made it clear that she conceived while Mark was still legally married to Sarah. The baby, a little boy, was born a few months ago. Mark and Lily named him Caleb, and while I've congratulated them and sent a thoughtful gift, I don't feel a strong connection to him. Recently, during a family gathering, Mark pulled me aside to discuss my will. He asked, in a tone that suggested he thought it was a no-brainer, if I'd updated it to include his new family. I told him I hadn't and had no plans to do so. My will is set up to benefit Mia, and that's not going to change. Mark's reaction was explosive. He accused me of playing favorites and holding a grudge against Lily and her kids. He said it wasn't fair to exclude his stepchildren and new baby, as they're part of the family now. I calmly explained that while I acknowledge his new family's existence, they're not my responsibility. My relationship with Mia is unique, and my decision reflects that. But Mark wouldn't let go of it. He accused me of being vindictive and selfish, claiming I was punishing him for his past mistakes. He even went so far as to threaten that if I didn't reconsider, he wouldn't let me have a relationship with Caleb. Here's where I need your judgment. I understand that Mark loves his new family and wants them to feel included, but I don't think that it's fair for him to demand I change my will to accommodate people who, quite frankly, are strangers to me. My bond with Mia is deeply personal. I've been there for her since the day she was born, through every milestone and challenge. She's been through enough upheaval with her parents' divorce, and I want her to have a sense of security and stability. That's why I chose to leave everything to her. It's not about punishing Mark or his new family. It's about honoring the relationship I've built with Mia. As for Lily's kids and Caleb, I wish them well, but I don't feel the same connection to them. They have two parents who are responsible for their well-being, and it's not my job to provide for them. Mark made his choices, and those choices have consequences. Jake is fully supportive of my decision and thinks Mark is being entitled. Even Sarah, who remains a close friend, told me I have every right to prioritize Mia. But Mark has been cold and distant ever since our argument. He's even started making passive-aggressive comments about real family and implying that I'm setting a bad example for Mia by playing favorites. Meanwhile, Lily has been unusually sweet to me lately, which I suspect is her way of trying to sway me. The tension in our family is palpable. Mark seems to think I owe his new family the same love and support I've given Mia, but I just don't see it that way. I'm not trying to punish anyone. I'm just honoring the bond I've built with Mia. But part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. Should I consider including Mark's stepchildren and new baby in my will to keep the peace? OP's brother sounds incredibly entitled. It's OP's money and her decision who to leave it to. The bond OP has with Mia is unique and special, and it's clear OP has put a lot of thought into this decision. OP's brother's new family isn't OP's responsibility, and it's unfair for him to pressure OP into including people OP barely knows in her will. OP needs to stick to her guns. OP is doing the right thing by prioritizing Mia, especially considering all the upheaval she's been through because of her father's actions. And now let's hear the community's opinion. I can see both sides here. While I completely understand why you're prioritizing Mia, I think your brother might be feeling hurt because he sees you as excluding his new family. Maybe he's interpreting your decision as a judgment on his life choices, which, let's be honest, it kind of is. That being said, it's your money, and you're under no obligation to include anyone you don't want to. If you want to smooth things over, maybe you could consider a small gesture, like a token amount for the new baby, just to show goodwill. Everyone sucks here. Your brother is obviously being entitled and manipulative, but your reasoning feels a bit cold. While Mia is your priority, it wouldn't hurt to acknowledge that her siblings, even half-siblings, are still part of her family. By leaving everything to Mia and excluding the others, you might be unintentionally creating resentment and division down the line. You don't have to give them equal shares, but even a small token in your will could go a long way toward fostering peace in the family. Not the a-hole. Your brother made choices that destroyed his marriage and disrupted Mia's life, and now he expects you to fix it by including his new family in your will? That's ridiculous. You've been a consistent source of love and stability for Mia, and it's clear she means the world to you. It's not your job to cater to his guilt or make his new family feel included. You're honoring a deep and meaningful bond, and there's nothing wrong with that. If your brother wants his other children to have financial security, he should focus on providing for them himself. Update. After our heated argument about my will, my brother and his wife, Lily, seemed to do a complete 180. They started inviting me and my husband, Jake, over for dinners and family outings regularly. At first, I was surprised, even cautiously hopeful. It felt like they were genuinely trying to build a relationship with us. Lily was suddenly warm and friendly, asking about our lives and interests, and Mark went out of his way to be accommodating. They even encouraged their kids to spend time with us, calling us auntie and uncle, in a way that felt oddly rehearsed but sweet. I thought maybe I'd been too harsh. Maybe they were truly trying to foster a bond, and I should give them the benefit of the doubt. Jake and I started attending their dinners and participating in family gatherings. I even made an effort to get to know Lily's kids a little better, bringing small gifts and chatting with them. They're nice enough kids. Last week, we were invited to another dinner at their house. It started out pleasant enough. Lots of small talk, good food, and a cheerful atmosphere. As the evening went on, the topic shifted to Christmas. Lily excitedly asked what we were planning to get for everyone. She mentioned how much the kids loved the gifts we brought to past gatherings, and how much it meant to them. Then, out of nowhere, Lily said with a sweet smile, "You know, the best Christmas present you could give would be to consider including the kids in your will. It would mean so much to them and to us as a family." I froze. For a moment, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jake's face immediately hardened, and I could tell he was as stunned as I was. Lily didn't seem to notice, or maybe she didn't care, because she kept going, talking about how it would show that I truly accepted them as part of the family. That's when it hit me. All the effort they'd been making to include us, all the dinners, the warm gestures, the faux interest in our lives. It wasn't about building a genuine relationship. It was about my will. This whole time, they were just trying to butter me up so I'd feel obligated to include Lily's kids in my estate. I stood up abruptly, cutting Lily off mid-sentence. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "This isn't about Christmas or gifts or family. This is about you trying to manipulate me into changing my will. Let me make this very clear. It's not happening. Mia is the only person who will ever benefit from my estate, and no amount of fake dinners or forced family time is going to change that." Lily's face turned red, and Mark jumped in, trying to backpedal. He stammered something about how I was misinterpreting their intentions, but I wasn't buying it. I turned to Jake and said, "We're leaving." As we walked to the door, Mark followed us, still trying to explain, but I cut him off. I told him, "Don't contact me again. If this is how you see me, as a bank account for your new family, then we're done." Jake and I left, and I've blocked both Mark and Lily on my phone and social media. I haven't heard from them since. I feel a mix of anger and sadness. I wanted to believe that they were trying to mend things for the right reasons, but their true motives were painfully clear. It hurts to know my own brother would stoop so low, using his kids and wife to manipulate me. Jake has been incredibly supportive, and I'm grateful to have him by my side through all of this. It's heartbreaking to cut ties with my brother, but I refuse to let anyone manipulate or guilt me into decisions I don't agree with. My brother and my family have always had some unknown issue with my husband. They don't like him so much, but they are willing to provide when needed. We lost our apartment because of debts, and my family offered to take us in. My husband was excluded from going out with the family under the excuse of, "Your husband is working, so he could save money for an apartment. We don't want to distract him." My brother's wedding was some days ago. I was told to let my husband stay home because, again, he needs to keep working so we can get our own place. Even though my husband said he had free time, I didn't want to leave him behind. I told my mom that I didn't want to go unless my husband came along. We either go together or we stay together. Mom was having none of it. She said, "This is my brother's wedding. If I miss it, the entire family will be upset with me." I caved in after a lot of pressure. Here's what I did. Since I didn't want to be there but had to go, I just isolated myself and refused to engage in any activity, nor take pictures, nor take part in toast. Instead, I became somewhat hostile towards my family and had a frown on my face. Basically, was so out of the mood it affected others. My brother tried to take pictures with me, but I declined. They invited me to join the dance floor, but I refused. Mom came to me and said I was behaving terribly, like a child that didn't want to come. I told her this is me at the wedding they insisted I attend without my husband. She started berating me, calling me pathetic to bring bad vibes and ruin the atmosphere of my brother's wedding and make the guests uncomfortable, all because I'm butthurt my husband couldn't come. Dad started asking me questions about whether my husband is giving me grief about it and if I was afraid of his fury. I ignored them and remained silent and kept a frown on my face. After the wedding ended, Mom said it was shameful and disgraceful that I behaved this way as my brother's only sibling. She said I ruined the wedding in a way and will have to apologize for acting juvenile. I went inside the room and shut the door. My husband said he understood my frustration, but insisted that I should have just enjoyed myself and tried not to get my family upset with us. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. You realize you're not 5, right? Just because your mom tells you she wants you to go to a thing doesn't mean you need to go if you've already made up your mind you're not going to have a good time. Or want to make it clear they can't just brush you off if you're upset about something, even if the thing in question is your brother's wedding. Or do you not feel that you can say no outright because you and your husband are dependent on your family's generosity right now? Because it sounds like they really think it's time for you, or at least he. We're out of there anyway, so maybe just focus on making that happen as soon as possible. Everyone sucks here, except your husband. Your brother for that weak reasoning at not inviting your husband. If your husband is too busy working, he'll decline the invitation. That's no reason not to extend one. You for going even though you didn't want to. You're old enough to be married. You're old enough to not be somewhere you don't want to be. Instead, you attended and made sure your displeasure and anger were visible. That is far worse than simply not going. Don't be a Debbie Downer at a wedding because you didn't have the courage to decline the invite that excluded your husband with weak reasoning. Your mother for harassing you into going, when it was 100% your decision to make. Yes, the a-hole. Be an adult and don't go if you don't want to. You acted like a child. I'm 5 months pregnant, happily married. We have highs and lows, but don't we all? I'm the first out of my father's side to get married, but not the first out of the 13 grandkids to get pregnant. My husband has honestly been a dream throughout this pregnancy, unlike his spawn, which takes after me and likes to make things difficult. We had a social distancing barbecue, and my cousins were there, all 5 girls. They're a bit older than me, but none of them married, and they have a bunch of kids, who are pretty great. It's kind of been a sore spot when I was the first to get married. So we were there, shooting the breeze, and the normal drama with having baby daddies and child support. I kept quiet, because they've kind of formed this men are crap ring. We found out last week that the baby is a girl, and my husband was talking loudly, gushing to my hard-of-hearing grandma that we were gonna name our daughter after his deceased mother. He's been so giddy at being a dad. Probs more than me. Past of breast cancer. Anna looked at me and asked if, "Are you sure you want to name her after his mom? It's not gonna make him stay." She had a baby 6 months ago, and the dad bounced the same week. Her sisters also jumped in, saying I shouldn't be getting too comfortable and that men leave once they see how hard it is. My husband overheard and just deflated instantly. I snapped, saying they knew the men they had babies with well before getting knocked up, and blamed them for being crap. But my husband isn't them, and that it's their own damn fault. I ended up leaving and consoling him, because now it's placed doubt that he can be a good dad, and what if he isn't good enough? I'm getting angry texts for ruining the mood. Edit. They all plan their babies, and I'll be honest, my daughter was an oopsie. We also were having a bit of a rough patch around the time our daughter was conceived, because his mom died around then, after her long battle. Grief is still super raw, so I imagine that's why he felt so bad. Edit. Someone asked what happened to my cousin's baby daddies, boyfriends, etc. Here's total. None of them were married. One cheated. Had baby with boyfriend when she found out to keep him to stay. Both thought this would mend the relationship. 2. Friends with benefits. Self-explanatory. Pays child support and deployed. Kept baby because he'll stay in the States then. 3. Relationship was failing, so had baby. This didn't fix it. 4. Planned baby. Thought would help get him stay in the country. Get serious, sober. His card was denied. He also had another family. Edited for clarification. 5. Knew within a month of meeting him she wanted a baby with him. Stopped using condoms and instead did no prevent, no try. He didn't know. He bounced within the week. Final edit. I've already decided to distance myself from them, for my family's sake. Me and my husband are talking about going no contact. He also wants to thank you all for the good advice, and that helped clean a bit of our doubt up. Not the a-hole. They ruined the mood by projecting their insecurities on you. They're jealous, so possibly the reaction could have been harsh, but they're going to see things that make them jealous their whole lives. Time to grow up and get over it. Not the a-hole. They have no right to say that. They are rude and jealous of the fact that they don't have a man that's excited to parent. They say you ruined the mood, but they did that to themselves. Your husband seems excited, and that's a good thing for you and your child. If I was you, I'd minimize contact with them. Telling you to not get comfortable in front of the man you married and are having a kid with was a a-hole move. Not the a-hole. They shouldn't be saying stuff like men won't stay to someone who's married, so you had all the right to say what you said. They shouldn't let their relationships or experiences with past relationships affect yours, and I hope they didn't get into your head at all, because you and your husband sound so happy. The baby is just as much his, so then saying stuff about not naming it after his grandmother is a bit selfish of them. They ruined the mood first by saying all that, so don't worry about their angry texts. He will make a great dad, and you'll make a great mother. My daughter, 7, is developing an interest in music, and I mentioned getting her lessons. Mother-in-law insisted that she should give her lessons, as anyone offering them on the internet was probably a loser. Mother-in-law has had a long career on and off Broadway, as well as writing and composing, and won multiple awards. But the thing is, she is crazy, and my kids don't even really like her. My husband pushed the idea because he is cheap, and mother-in-law was willing to do it for free. My daughter was okay with it, because she did see mother-in-law perform live once, and wants to be like her, though still doesn't really like her. So, the day of the first lesson, mother-in-law got there 20 minutes late, said my house makes her claustrophobic, and then jumped on my piano like it was a ducking beanie bag. I asked her to please be careful, and she rolled her eyes. She proceeded to give my kid half-hearted lessons, and sat on my piano the entire time. I finally asked her nicely to get off of it, and said I would get her a chair. Mother-in-law scoffed, and said she sits on her own all the time, and hers costs way more than this crap. I said she can do whatever she wants in her own house, but she is in my house. Mother-in-law said she likes sitting on the piano and to leave her alone. My daughter even told her she should get off of it, and mother-in-law called her no fun, and told her someday if she makes it, she is going to want to sit on the piano too. Finally, I snapped and threatened to spray her like a cat. She got down and looked shocked. Mother-in-law told me I was just a teacher, and I know nothing about music. I yelled at her that at least I know something about respect. Mother-in-law began to tear up and said I was calling her fat. She is not fat, nor have I ever even implied it. Then she said I humiliated her with the water. I finally told her to just leave, so she did, but she called father-in-law. Father-in-law called my husband and cussed him out for a solid 5 minutes. He also texted me that I'm disrespectful and ugly. Most people I've talked to are on my side, but my mom said I'm the a-hole because people sit on pianos in movies, and obviously mother-in-law knows what she is doing, and I'm probably just jealous. My husband thought it was funny, but wants me to talk to her when I'm cooled down, so she can continue the lessons. I'm going with not the a-hole. You asked her to get down several times. She didn't. I thought telling her that you were going to spray her like a cat was a little much. But, you warned her many times. She insulted you. You didn't insult her back. I think lessons should be canceled. Not the a-hole. Mother-in-law is unhinged and insufferable. Please consider a professional in teaching your daughter. She was being disrespectful to you in your own home. I personally thought the spray thing was mild. I would have done it and tell her to scat, but that's the pettiness of me. Not the a-hole. You asked her not to sit on the piano. She refused. She insulted you, your home, your boundaries, your parenting, and got father-in-law to back her up with more insults. It's not about piano. It's about ego. And speaking as someone entrenched in the entertainment industry, a lot of performers are total narcissists. Mother-in-law fits the bill, and husband is too broken down by it to fight her. So he's fighting you instead, choosing the path of least resistance, because he's learned that's the best way to keep mom happy, going with her insane flow. My 27 male. Parents are divorced. Father is remarried and they have an 8-year-old child. My parents' divorce was really nasty. It got even worse when my mother successfully sued my father for child support. It was my stepmother's great advice that my father fight any payments, and in the end, they have ended up paying more via travel across the country to appear in court, lawyer fees, the stress. Needless to say, neither party has anything nice to say about the other. My stepmother has taught my half-brother to be disrespectful to my sisters and I. He will say things like, "Your mommy should go to jail," or "Your mommy made my mommy spotting." Sick. Stepmother had a miscarriage a couple years earlier and has since had her tubes tied. Frankly, we think she was too old to have a second child. Now that travel is possible again, I went to visit my father's family. My father insisted, because my grandfather is in a nearby nursing home and I live across the country. He is getting old and might be the last time. Of course, my half-brother was a real crap the whole time, which I mostly ignored. He also lets his pet ferret run wild in my room, without my knowledge, a guest room above their garage in their very large house. So it isn't like there's nowhere else for the animal. The animal ate through my carry-on bag. I had bought dog treats to take back to my dog. I had to tape the hole up with duct tape. No one offered to buy me a new one. I was visiting my grandfather at the nursing home, and my stepmother and half-brother came to pick me up where we would meet my father for a kids' soccer match my half-brother was in. Before I got into the car, I asked my stepmother a couple of questions about something. I can't remember. Maybe the nursing home hours or something mundane like that. Through the open window. My brother started screaming at me to get in the car. At this point, I lost it and yelled back at him to shut up. My stepmother got angry and gave me this big lecture on how he is 8 and I am 27, blah blah blah. During the ride, I told her if she keeps raising her kid like this, he's going to grow up to become a loser no one can stand to be around. She threatened to take me back to the nursing home, which she didn't follow through with, then proceeded to give me some sort of mental health pop quiz and told me I need to get checked out by a mental health professional. Questions included, do you feel you have to do things at certain times? Me, yes, because I have to be at work at certain times. Both my father and half-brother are on medications. When we got to the match, it was weird because after all this ruckus, she acted like nothing happened. She didn't even tell my dad. So, am I the a-hole for saying her kid will grow up to be a loser no one can stand to be around? Not the a-hole. I would say it's not the child's fault that he's being raised that way, but at that age, you should already know what's right and what's wrong. Your stepmother sounds like a nightmare and deserved to hear that. You should tell your dad. Maybe he is unaware of her and the kid's behavior. If he condones it, then stop visiting. No point in coming if they destroy your stuff and make you feel bad. Is the 8-year-old on medication? What the actual duck is going on? The kid is 8. It needs parenting, not medication. Definitely not the a-hole. His manners are absolutely horrible, and it's her fault. If she does not change, then he will definitely grow up to be someone that nobody likes. My brother is 35, and due to an extremely shady lifestyle, this is conjecture from what he says sometimes. I admit I have no proof. He is able to afford a brand new car every few years, as well as a home with a pool, garage, etc. I know I sound like I'm jealous, but I want to stress that it's not his material items I disapprove of. It's his lack of care and interest in anybody around him. He pays my mom a lot of money, so she's in his pocket, and he parades around his 8-year-old as though he's a toy or pet, not as though he's a living, breathing child. I'm one of the ones he's always been critical of, and vice versa, because his disrespect towards women and other qualities makes me think he's, well, a loser. I know he pays child support, and I know my nephew's room at both my mom's house and my brother's house are full of toys and clothes, etc. And my brother sends my nephew to a private school. But he allows his ex-girlfriend, who is truly a humble, hard-working person, she's struggling with bills, etc., but always has a smile on her face, to struggle and go without. This obviously impacts my nephew, and he's told me in the past he wishes mommy was as happy as daddy. I saw my brother recently and said to him, why don't you pay some money towards ex-girlfriend for groceries, so your son can eat well when he lives at his mom's? Why don't you help her with school, because she is currently studying all night on an online course? He told me to stay out of his business and said that his responsibility is to his son, not to his ex-girlfriend. I said feeding your son when he's at his mom's isn't your responsibility. And then in front of my mom, he said, that's what child support is for, you dumb duck. I retaliated and said he was both a loser and an a-hole for driving around in his car when he knows he's letting his ex suffer that way. My mom told me to get out of the house because I was being rude and not dropping the subject. I can't believe I'm considered the a-hole over this. Yes, the a-hole from the sounds of it. You're upset he's not giving his ex money. If he's paying child support and sending the kid to private school, then he's doing more than enough. And if he's giving your mom money, he's looking after her too. Mind your own business. Yes, the a-hole. If your brother pays child support and the mother of his child still isn't feeding the child, it would seem to me that she's the a-hole. Having a child with someone means you're responsible for the care of the child you helped to create, not for sending your ex to school. From OP's comments and an understanding of how child support calculations go, the court decided that he should pay an amount that is way beyond what he should be paying, due to him earning money illegally and not showing his true income to the courts, so a fair value cannot be established. He does pay more than what was decided in court. However, it is less than what a court would decide his support should be if they knew his true income, and he also controls how that money will be spent, as in which brands the ex can buy food from, which is not how it would go if he was paying that out of child support. So he basically screwed his ex in court because he was able to present a much lower income, being forced to pay much less child support than what it should be, still pays less than it should be, and controls how the extra he pays can be used. Honestly, that seems like real a-hole attitude.